All right, it's time for Law in Our Life. We have An Hyun-ju here in our studio. Hello, Hyun-ju.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. Could you introduce yourself again to our listeners who are still getting used to this segment?
Sure. Hello, Jeff and listeners. I'm Hyun-ju An, a lawyer practicing in Gwangju. I usually work with expats and I upload Korean Law 101 videos on YouTube to provide legal information to foreigners in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
You can find me on YouTube by searching my name, Hyun-ju An, or Korean Law 101.
All right, fair enough. Now, what are we going to talk about today? What's the big topic for us?
Today I'd like to talk about the cases.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you became the victim of a crime, what can you do?
Okay. Well, that's a good question. In my first year in Korea, actually, I was a victim of a crime. And
Oh my.
I didn't really know what to do, and I still don't know what I should have done. But let's look at some expert advice. What would you say?
So let's say that if you are at the crime scene, you should immediately report to the police.
Mm-hmm.
You can call not 911, but 119 in Korea, or 112 for help.
Mm-hmm.
The police will be dispatched to the place where you are. It is crucial to make a report, since by reporting you can have evidence conserved by the investigators.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of being officially charged will play a huge difference when you negotiate with the perpetrator to recover your damage in the criminal case. So it's important to make an official report.
Yeah, and right there, to be honest, just what now you said about negotiating with the violator to recover damage, to me, as you know, I'm a Canadian, that's a big difference from our law system. You know, if you call the police, it's because you want the police to press charges
Yes.
and punish somebody.
Sure.
And that's it. You're probably not getting anything out of it.
Yep, that makes sense. But in Korea, negotiating with the perpetrator can be seen like if the prosecutor charges the criminal, then he will be punished for what he did by a criminal charge.
Okay.
But it does not give the victim the right to be recovered financially.
Okay, right.
So then it would be up to the perpetrator whether he wants to pay you back the medical bill or not.
Okay.
So if you want to get that damage recovered, you may need to negotiate.
All right. So it's also leverage.
Yes.
The criminal charge is leverage for any civil matter. Okay.
Sure.
Cool. Now, you also mentioned 119. I always thought that was convenient. Because, you know, in Canada, the U.S., it's 911.
Yeah.
And you come here and it's 119. That's easy to remember. Now, what if I'm not at the crime scene?
So let's say that the crime occurred in the past, then you can still report the accident to the police or to the prosecutors afterwards. You can just visit the police station and say that you want to report a crime. You can do it verbally, or you can submit a paperwork if it's a complicated situation. You can ask for an English-speaking police officer in the district police station, or ask for the interpreter to assist you. Then they will reschedule a date for the police interview with an interpreter.
Okay. That's all pretty simple. Most of my friends who've dealt with the police brought their own interpreter, but it's good to know that they can supposedly help you as well.
Sure.
Though my experience has been when Waiku can go down to the police station, the whole police station gets pretty nervous that they have to deal with a foreigner. You know, they maybe up in Seoul it'd be more normal, but down here in Gwangju.
Down in Gwangju, I accompanied with an expat to the police station.
Okay.
I speak English, but I cannot be an interpreter for him because I might not be in a neutral position to make a interpretation. So the police asked for the police designated interpreter.
Okay.
There are a few.
Sure. Well, that makes
Gwangju,
sense.
So they can come.
Yeah. Well, and they probably are, you know, they would know all the jargon between English and Korean to best explain it. I think they'd be the right people. Are there other ways to submit a crime report?
Yes, you can just submit a crime report to the prosecutor's office stating the date, place, and details of the crime. Even if you do not have the perpetrator's personal information like phone number or name, you can still make a report. The investigators will do their own search to identify the suspect by looking at the CCTV videos or asking around. So if you only have the person's phone number or the Facebook messages, it's fine too. You can go and make a report.
All right. So why don't you give some examples of types of crimes that they could look at? Number 3.
Oh, yeah. So let's say that if you are involved in a domestic violence or sexual harassment, you can seek help at the Special Support Center for Sex Crime Victims. The center aims to serve the children and women who suffered domestic violence, sexual harassment, or abuse. The centers are located nationwide, and they provide counseling service and legal service. In Gwangju, it's located in Chosun University Hospital.
Yeah.
The name of the center is Sunflower Center, which is Hebaragi Center. At the center, there are female police officers and nurses for the interview and initial medical examination.
All right, very good. I've heard of the Sunflower Center before. I think you might have mentioned it. And you know, can you get a lawyer to also come down there if you're making a report?
Sure. If you ask, the prosecutor-appointed lawyer will accompany you while you are making report, and they can assist you during the court proceedings and offer legal advice, and it's all free.
All right. Now, you know, we mentioned that there's kind of a civil track in Korea as well. How does that work alongside the criminal track?
So if you are a criminal victim, you can not only report such crime to the police, but you can also file a civil lawsuit against the perpetrator to recover your damage. In the civil lawsuit, you can recover the monetary damage that you suffer, such as medical bills, any psychological damage like distress or anxiety, loss of income if you are hospitalized for a certain time. So to prove the damage, you may need to collect the evidence, and you do not have, if you do not have the physical evidence, you can ask your friends to write an affidavit stating that they know that you suffered after the crime. Also, you can get the doctor's note to prove your symptoms and its severity.
Okay. Now, what if you want to pursue that civil case?
So whether you want to pursue that lawsuit, it depends on whether you want to settle the case in criminal proceeding as a whole and pardon the perpetrator. If you settle with the perpetrator during the criminal proceeding, the person will request you to submit an agreement stating that you forgive the person in return of the comfort money and you do not want the criminal punishment. So if you want the perpetrator to be liable for what he did, you can refuse to settle in the criminal case because the pardon will reduce the severity of the penalty that he will receive.
Right,
so
their sentence.
Yes, so you can avoid that by not making an agreement in the criminal proceeding.
Right, if it was really, you know, I guess, egregious, you really want them to suffer. All right.
But the downside would be that it will take longer to recover your damage if you pursue the civil lawsuit.
Okay.
As you have to go through another legal process.
All right, so then the civil lawsuit would be separate.
Yes.
I'm curious, if I, you know, let's say you assault me and then I accept some payoff and so the charges are reduced, does that affect crime statistics? Like, is that not recorded by as an actual crime, do you think, by the police?
It is reported as, you mean like in statistics or under your criminal record?
Well, because Korea has pretty low crime statistics.
Oh.
But if all these crimes are just getting swept under the rug because of money flying around.
Not really. It will be recorded as a type of crime, but it will be said like it was not convicted because of this and this and this.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I guess, you know, when I've dealt with police, when my friends have dealt with police, something we always noticed was they seem to be busy.
Yeah, one thing is that as the police and prosecutors are all extremely busy with case logs, they may not inform you regularly with the update of your case. So sometimes the victims feel that they are neglected, therefore you should be proactive and once in a while contact the investigator to ask about any progress of your case.
Yeah.
Also, it's very powerful to submit letter to the police or prosecutor's office or later to the court to let them know about your situation, your anxiety or any threat from the perpetrator after you make a report. Because if you don't tell them, there's no way for them to know what's going on outside of the courtroom.
Okay.
And those situations will be all reflected when the judge is making a sentence,
right.
granting a sentence.
Okay. Is there anyone else I can get help from?
Yeah, sure. There's free legal service available. You can seek help at Korean Law Assistance Corporation, 법률구조공단. They have English-speaking staff that can assist you, and it's located in Jisan-dong, near the court.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'll tell you what my experience was. My first year in Korea, I had some money go missing from my apartment while some builders were there. Like the landlord needed to have access to my apartment for some builders to get in, and then later I was looking at the apartment and 1,000,000 won was gone.
Oh my!
I had like half a paycheck sitting in the shoebox. Now that was my problem for having money sitting around. But you know, I did file a police report.
Okay.
But they never called me back, and I asked my manager at my hagwon, you know, can you call them, because they were supposed to call him, and he called them up and they said, okay, no, we'll get back to you, and they never did.
Oh, but
so that was it. Like it just kind of like got let go, and so I just gave up. That was my experience. But this was like 15 years ago.
15 years ago?
I think back then they might have been a little less helpful with foreigners.
Maybe.
And I know they probably couldn't really do much about my situation anyways.
If there was no CCTV, then it would be only your, like...
Yeah, it's just my word.
Yeah.
I understood that, but I thought, you know, just I'll try anyways. But thank you so much for this help coming in today. And of course, we can check out Korean Law 101 on YouTube.
Sure.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Okay, good. So whenever I